What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So FedEx kind of honeyed me again with parts that have magically disappeared in Troutdale, Oregon for another video I'm working on. So instead today we're gonna do a vlogish style video hanging out up at the mod garage. I have that like 2014 STI hatch that I'm working on today, the one that did the big blow up job. The engine's pretty much reassembled at this point. I just need to get the timing components on there. Once timing's on there, we can get the flywheel, the clutch bolted back up on this thing, get it back in the engine. I would ideally like to get this car running and driving today. We'll see if that happens. I don't 100% know if it will. We'll see how far we actually get. But let me kind of show you where the engine stands, what the breakdown is of what we're doing today. And hopefully we can get this one done, hopefully. So here's the engine that I have rebuilt. It's a Type RA short block, brand new OEM heads that have been rebuilt to OEM specs. All new cam gears on this thing. So we just got our timing belt kit in. A lot of you guys ask what timing belt kits to get. Just get the ASIN kits. The ASIN kits are like $290. Do not get the Gates kits. The ASIN ones are just, they're superior at this point. They're better, they don't fail. So let's start this off by getting timing on this engine done. We'll get it in time. After it's in time, we can get the timing covers on there, get it on a crane, get the flywheel, clutch, all that good stuff bolted up onto this. Then we can drop it back in the, drop her back in the car. Once it's dropped back in the car, at that point it'll pretty much be like just plugging in basic stuff, filling it up with fluids, and hopefully just starting it. So I ended up taking the intake manifold off just because I didn't like how the hoist was mounting up to the block with the intake manifold on there. So it's just to make my life a little bit easier. Decided to pull it off. Now we just got to throw this flywheel on. I just cleaned this. We're reusing the stock clutch and pressure plate because the owner wanted to, just for budget reasons. Nothing wrong with that. So we'll get those guys thrown on there, get this thing aligned back up in the car. And there's no way we're finishing this engine build today, but I can at least get it back in the car. The intake manifold put back on, all the smaller stuff taken care of, downpipe on, things like that. Baby steps. It's baby steps when it comes to engine builds. You don't got to rush things. Make sure you do it right and take your time. But let's get this thing back in its home. All right, we got our clutch flywheel on, all torqued down to spec. Clutch is aligned in the center there. Engine is hoisted, ready to go. Car is on the lift, and the transmission has been jacked up a little bit. Everything is good to go. We have our throwout bearing in there set up. So at this point, I can fanoodle with that and fight with it to get it in there. Sometimes engines go in super easy, and other times they're a little bit of a pain. So, I mean, let's see what you are. You want to be easy today for us? Or do you want to be a pain? So I got this engine in. This is one of the ones that it just didn't want to go in. It didn't want to get back in its home. Finally got it lined back up. Sometimes you have to take them out, put them in, take them out, put them in, take them out, put them in a couple times just to be able to get things to be happy, slide back in. Sometimes you do need to use the bolts that hold the engine to the transmission bell housing together. You just got to kind of suck them together sometimes. I don't always recommend that if you can get them to slide in like butter. I've had that happen multiple times. Sometimes it just doesn't, but engine's in. At this point, let's get the downpipe on, the cap back hooked back up to the downpipe. Let's get everything done underneath of the car that we can, just to reduce how much crap we got going on over here on like the rack and everything like that. The less stuff, the better. Underneath the car, everything I need to do, I need to start by retightening up these transmission mount nuts just to keep the transmission in place. After that, we get our engine mount nuts on. I'm gonna go ahead and get the downpipe tossed in up there, get it bolted back up, just to reduce the amount of stuff and to lessen the amount of stuff that we have to do under here under the car. Don't forget about those two right there for the engine mounts. I've seen people forget those before when they go to rebuild an engine, and that's fun watching the motor jump around. So let's knock out everything under here, and then we can jump back up top. Dude, I've been searching everywhere for a turbo to downpipe gasket. Brian doesn't have a single one anywhere. He's got header, Tomei 3 bolts, like every gasket you could think of, but no turbo to downpipe gasket. So he was able to like con Subaru into coming and driving by and dropping off a gasket for an exorbitant amount of money over cost of a gasket, but it's whatever. It means we can get the downpipe on. So while I wait for that, I'm gonna keep going up top. I'm gonna get the intake manifold put back on. Now, here's the thing. Even though I've built a decent amount of Subarus, we all make mistakes. It happens. It's not the end of the world if a mistake happens. I kind of destroyed the wiring harness a little bit. I can repair it. It's not a huge deal, but keep that in mind, we all make mistakes. So last time I went to put this manifold on, at some point, I totally smashed this connector straight off. It's not a huge deal. I can definitely depin this, repair it, and get it back on the car. It goes to the lower oil control valve down here on the driver's side. When you guys go and do stuff like this, like it happens. Mistakes happen when you go through and do this. So if this is your first time building an engine, putting an engine together, just remember, it happens to everyone. Doesn't matter how many engines you put together. I guarantee you every now and then you're gonna make a mistake like this. It's not the end of the world. Just remember that. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I can repair this while the harness is on the car, so I'm not too stressed about it. So let's get this intake manifold put back on here, bolted down, and then I'll get this repaired after like tomorrow or something. I need to get the wiring stuff from the house to be able to fix this. Not the end of the world. Hey, look what showed up. We got some downpipe gaskets, so that means we can get the downpipe back on this thing. I've made like incredible progress on this. I am like very pleased with myself right now. You go over there. There's a couple things I'm intentionally leaving out of the engine bay right now because I still have to put an IAG AOS in here. So when going through these things, make sure you leave yourself some room. Like I still need to be able to get down there to the breather ports on the head. Still got to get to those, so just make sure you leave yourself a little bit of room. But I can get the downpipe on here because that doesn't get in my way for anything. So back up this thing goes. No tools I need in there, right? Nope. Up you go. Goodbye. All right, let's get that downpipe in its home. Dude, dirty as hell as always. Jeez. If I had a front O2 sensor for this car, I'm like 95% confident I could get it done today. I'm about to get the AOS in, so this car's getting an IAG V3 AOS. This rebuild has been completely OEM. Everything about this car is OEM with the exception of the oil pan, pickup, windage tray, and this AOS. Everything else is stock. So it's been a pretty easy rebuild, to be honest. It's not one that I've enjoyed because I don't enjoy doing OEM rebuilds. It's kind of like, just kind of put it all back together and whatnot, but it's like, it's looking good. It's right there. Front O2 sensor, I'm missing the front O2 sensor, obviously, if I didn't make that clear. I'm missing the front O2 sensor, but if I had that, I could get the car running. Let's get this AOS in. Maybe I can convince Brian to go get me a front O2 sensor. Maybe. So I've actually reached my limit with this car for today. Patience-wise and annoyance and everything else like that. This is the one that like straight up exploded. Like this one like exploded. And I thoroughly cleaned everything. I remember because I went through like 2 cans of brake cleaning it. And it still wasn't good enough. Like these are the things that scare me when doing like these massive engine rebuilds like this, is that you never know. Unless you replace everything, you just never know. So if you have an instance where your engine blows up like this, you have to be extremely cautious. So as I was going through this, getting this AOS installed, to get this breather line on there, you have to take off the throttle body and go onto the intake manifold like that. Now when I had this intake manifold apart or off the car, I took the TGVs off, I sprayed it out with some compressed air, sprayed it out with some brake clean, thought I got everything out of it. Turns out everything just settled inside of it. If you just pull back that right there and you look down in there, let me grab a flashlight. So when you pull the throttle body back and you look down in there, there are, like, let me zoom in on that. There are pieces of engine still inside of there. If it weren't for me going through and actually installing this AOS, I would have had no idea that there were still pieces of engine in that intake manifold, even after cleaning it to the extent that I did. It just wasn't good enough. All right, you guys, so it's future editing Tanner here. As I'm watching this video, it seems like there's a couple things that I left out when I was going through this. When I tore that intake manifold off of the car, I completely tore off the TGVs, everything like that, to replace the gaskets in between the intake manifold and the TGVs. While I had that apart is when I sprayed the inside of the intake manifold with about 2 cans of brake clean. There was a lot of stuff that came out of there, but I'm guessing all of those smaller pieces of metal were stuck on like certain parts, the top of the intake manifold and things like that, and maybe when the brake clean was off gassing is when it like started to break up that oil a little bit and let all that stuff kind of fall down, but it all pooled up, as you guys saw, right in front of where the throttle body sits. So just a friendly reminder, when you're going through to rebuild your engine, triple, quadruple, sextuple check. Make sure you get all the metal out. All right, back to past Tanner, present Tanner, the other Tanner. But this is why you have to be extremely careful when you go through and you do these rebuilds. If you don't catch these little things like that, you will completely destroy a new engine and you will be right back to square one where you have to go through there and rebuild it all again. And that'll just be expensive. So I'm very glad that I ended up pulling that off to get that on the car. But it sucks. But it's just, there's no other option. I have to take it off and clean it. So with that, I am at my wit's end with this car for today. I will pick up this car again in another day, maybe another video, who knows. It's a good learning experience to show you guys that if you don't take the time to thoroughly go through and clean everything after your car blows up, like it does, like a big blow up job, just take the time. I thought I got it all out, apparently not. I know I got it all out of the TGVs. I know I got it all out of the runners. It looks like it all collected in the collector right in the middle of the intake manifold. Sucks. Like 4 hours of work. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Not gonna have a meltdown. Not gonna have a meltdown. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But anyways, since I'm stopping, that's all I got for you guys on this one. So if you do decide to go through and rebuild your car after it did a big blow up job, keep in mind, just remember, word of the day, message of the day, clean everything thoroughly, take everything completely apart, even like past the extent of needing to. Otherwise, you gotta do this. Sucks, but whatever. Anyways, if you guys like the video, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, cyan, whatever color it turns for you. Color of the day, silver, because this color of the hatch that we're working on. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be one of these corners, go ahead, smack that button. No idea which one I'll put it in quite yet. And with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, homies.